There we go. Now we're all ready. We are here.
Can I say
Woo!
the
Yes,
thing?
you can say the thing. The sound is
Yes.
coming through.
Well, hello there. It's
Hello.
again, it's like a little Christopher Walken in there. I can just feel it.
Wow, hello there.
Oh well, hello there.
I just suddenly remembered that I had to mute the chat, the video that I had open on my tab before we started coming through. But it's fine. I got there in time because there's a little delay before we actually get into. We're fine anyway. It's all
I
great.
thought you were gonna say that we are muted again.
We're
and you
not
forgot
muted.
to
I
unmute
made
them.
sure we're not muted.
Okay, that's fine.
I
That's
can
fine.
see both of our audio coming through on the audio mixer. I think.
But
we're
what about
okay.
Brian? Because Brian is here as well.
Brian is on the desktop audio, which is coming through my headphones. So you're both on the same audio, and I'm going through on a separate audio channel. We're fine.
Brill.
Hey, if anybody's watching, which hopefully they should be, chime off in the chat and tell us that we sound okay.
I was gonna say, hopefully no one's watching right now.
Hey, no, we want people to watch.
We want
this,
people
okay?
Right.
We want-
Engagement's important. I forgot. Sorry.
We
Yeah,
want
it's
an
okay.
audience.
Today's gonna be chaos. If you haven't realized that yet, I can't talk.
We have
So
chaos.
that's like
I
the
have
other
so
thing.
many notes.
Jesus
I-
Christ!
that from my perspective, that was just a blank piece of paper.
That's- Oh my God.
It's
So in today's episode, it's just gonna be Katie talking, and we're just gonna
it's gonna
sit
be
there and be like,
mostly me.
We're nodding.
Also,
Yes,
Ian says
nodding.
the sound
We're
is
just
good, so
just-
we're all good. I told
Thank
you,
you,
I'm
Ian.
so good at my job.
"You are excellent at your job." Do you want to introduce our podcast to be even better?
Even
than
better at
excellent?
the job. Yeah, I can do
Yes.
that. Hi, everyone. Welcome to All the Films We Judged Before. I'm Katie. That's Lily Kay. And we all have Brian joining us. I'm saying it like that because I wasn't entirely expecting Brian to be joining us today, but I'm very glad
Wasn't
that
either.
he is.
I wasn't either. I was hoodwinked. Some might even say no. That's not true.
Hand
I
Um,
bullied him into this.
I'm glad to be here. I am extraordinarily tired, jet lagged, but alive. So here we are.
What a
Hello.
lovely sentiment.
I'm alive too.
Yeah, we're all here. We're all alive.
Woo!
Unlike the people we'll be talking about today.
Oh, good segue.
Thank you. We won't be in
Yeah.
there just yet, but I thought I'd throw that in there.
What? What's going on?
They're dead. They're dead
Oh, yeah,
boys.
Oh,
the dead boy detective.
I can understand jokes as you can see.
That was a very. I felt.
I
Anyway.
almost called it. I'll be honest with you. I couldn't remember the name, and I was scared. I had to like introduce her, say it out loud. I was going to
You know
call it the
what's
Dead Pet Detective Club, and that was
I like that as
good.
well. To be honest, that's good. What's really funny is that people keep shortening it to DBD, but every time I see DBD, I read Dead by Daylight, and I'm like, we
Oh,
can't be
sure.
doing this.
yeah.
We can't be
It all
doing
it
this.
sounds like CBD, CBT, other words or letters that
Wait,
rhyme.
no, I'm not going to do that joke. That's not what that
What's
was-
going on?
Nothing. Everything's
happening?
fine.
It's what is happening?
Anyway. We have a weird energy
can't
going on
see.
tonight, everybody.
Just a massive amount of exhaustion. I think that's being
Yeah, this is
weirdly
this is-
shared.
This is
Everyone.
a shared. Fuck it. I'm just going to abandon that sentence. It's not going.
Communal experience, right? Yeah.
I told you I'm abandoning the sentence. We don't need to talk about it anymore. Let's
Okie doke.
continue on.
Well, anyways, so
Hi everyone.
We already had that part.
I know. I was going to
Okay.
start segueing into the other stuff we we're going to be talking about. Welcome, Jesus Christ.
To all the films we judged before, we said that, yes.
so any news, Katie, of the week?
Oh, okay. Anyway, yes. Whew, calming down. Before we get into the main topic of conversation, which will be mostly me talking about why I like this show a lot. We're gonna do all the other stuff that we do before we talk about stuff, which is me starting with the news. So there's just gonna be a lot of me today.
Woo!
So if you don't enjoy me, I'm sorry, but get over yourself.
Would it just be horrible if you saw all the viewers like just click off?
I'd be like, yeah, that tracks.
It's like that's just not kind, guys.
That's
Come
my
on.
life. No, that's fine.
No.
No.
It's fine. I'm making jokes.
Okay.
Um,
What are those?
Says the woman who tells just the most. Anyway, news. I'm not going to talk
Yeah.
about this first one because you know what? I don't like it, and it's really in opposition to the way that the energy of this podcast.
We're
has gone.
starting off great with the news. Yes, go on.
So I'm going to start with it was related. My first piece of news I got written down was related to the previous one, but fuck that noise. Instead, I'm going to say Daniel Radcliffe got nominated for a Tony. Woohoo! It's his first Tony. I'm just very pleased for him. If you can put two and two together about the previous piece of news, it was about other things that Daniel Radcliffe has been saying recently.
Yeah.
We love him, basically. That's why I wanted to put this in here. He's a gem and an angel.
That's true.
So I'm just very happy for him to be, nominated for a Tony. All the Tony nominations came out. Cabaret is. I'm surprised how many nominations that Cabaret's got. It only just opened on Broadway. I don't know when the cutoff point for the Tonys is, but clearly it's very close.
Looks like.
Apparently, but like as it should, because it's an excellent production, and I've seen it for
Multiple times.
5 times at this point.
Whoa!
I can't remember.
That is more than 3 and less than 10.
Yes.
Yeah, it's exactly.
You're so smart,
It's
Brian.
exactly in that bracket.
Thank you very much.
It's very much in that bracket. But yeah, I wanted to mention that one because I thought it was nice. I'll go on to this one next because I think it's in the same energy. There was a little Hannibal reunion at C2E2 in the past weekend. What's happening?
What is this like? Sorry. For anyone listening, Lily was just going side to side, kind of bobbing, and I'm like, oh, just go along
I got the
with it.
zoomies.
The poor people who listen to our audio-only version is going to be like,
You guys should just skip this one.
What?
Listen to the very end, just like speed through it and leave a good
Yes.
review, and then just skip to next episode.
or you can
And the,
go
and
to
the last
come
part
to
is
us
going to
on
be
YouTube.
fuck you all. No.
We're doing a great job of not alienating our audience today, guys.
Anyway, go on. We're listening.
We didn't even know that we were on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah,
until
exactly.
relatively recently. So.
Go on, Katie. We're listening. Go on.
Yes, Hannibal had a little reunion over the past last weekend, I think it was, at C2E2. Hugh Dancy and Mads Mikkelsen reunited at a panel. Stop moving in my periphery.
I was sitting at the wrong place. Go on.
It's fine. There was a lot of hope that they'd be there to suddenly announce that there was going to be a season 4 after a really long time, but there was no
What?
news. Hannibal.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
But unfortunately, they didn't say anything. But like, apparently, it was a lovely panel.
Which Hannibal?
What? The NBC Hannibal series.
No.
Mads
Lily,
Mikkelsen.
Yes.
Did you say?
Oh,
Did you say which?
wow.
What did you say? Never mind. It's not worth it. We're just loopy as.
Anyway, the
That's
panel was
you can
cute. The two of them hugged. It was a nice little
Ooh.
panel. Apparently they went and got drunk together the night before when they flew in, which was apparently adorable.
Nice.
That's that one. I just thought that was nice because I've been rewatching Hannibal, so I wanted to mention it. But you know, people, the internet, and by the internet I mean Tumblr, are still very much hoping that they at some point come up with another season after that last one that ended.
Wasn't there 4 seasons already?
3. There were 3. People want a
That's
4th.
why I was confused. See?
Mm.
That's the reason.
So yeah, what was I gonna say next? Honestly, I don't like the rest of my other news. Those are the 2 I'm gonna stick with. It's like they're kind of in like other. They get really like one of them. I just wanted to mention that for any Americans watching that Black Sails is now on Netflix in the US. So if you wanna watch Black Sails,
You're in
there it
the UK, Brian.
but he goes back to the US.
If any Americans are watching, I'm watching technically, so I feel ostracized, and I don't feel like this is a safe space anymore.
Whoopsie!
Me when
No,
Lily starts
I-
talking about why she doesn't like this show.
That is
Spoilers.
good news for my fellow Americans. I met another fellow American in a coffee shop today.
Oh, how dare
Yeah, a lot of
they're
Americans do.
escaping.
And sorry.
I said, how dare they're escaping.
Well, no, she was also from the Pacific Northwest, and they're like, "Oh, I recognize the accent. Hey, how's it going?" And then that was it. It was just like, oh, it was just weird to meet someone from.
I always got the biggest
Washington.
tips from Americans. So, you know.
What was that?
It's
Sorry?
true. I mean, Americans know how to tip because they have to.
Yeah.
We run off of fear and social expectation that if we don't, then we'll be disliked by everyone. So
Also,
we
you Americans, like when Americans work in the service industry, they live off tips because
No,
yes,
this is also true. No, and I mean,
absolutely insane business practices going on over there.
the first part was kind of a joke, but no, I mean it's
No,
awful.
I'm being real.
Should be paid a living wage. It's just rate, just pay people better. So
Yeah.
no one, it's I don't know. Yeah.
That's so true.
I had a guy come. He came in on a Monday morning, which is very weird, because the pub was at Paddington, and from Heathrow they usually
Mhm.
came to Paddington in the morning, and it was just me and this guy, and he was from America.
I'm sorry.
Whoops. And he talked a lot, but he was very.
I love it when you just sort of tick off stereotypes for people.
Great.
He
Thank
was- he
you
was
so
ve- he-
much.
No, he was very nice. He was very kind. He came for a festival, if I remember correctly.
Uh-huh.
And he asked me about the festival, and I looked at him like, "Do I look like someone who goes to festivals?" I do not.
I've been to
Like,
two festivals.
This is
in-
not the face that goes to festivals.
But if you went with your body and your face to a festival, then it would be the
Then
face
you would
that
be
went
at the
to
festival.
I guess, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I've been to two festivals and they are not my favorite. They were good experiences, but I'm not built for the festival lifestyle.
Yeah,
at all.
me neither. I went 3 times because 30 Seconds to Mars was coming. 30 Seconds to
I
Mars.
Mhm.
saw Panic at the Disco at Slam
Oh.
Dunk in 2016, which was my first ever like proper live like show to see like a band I really wanted to see. It was the
Oh,
first time I
wow,
did.
wow.
It was a really fun show actually. And it was only a day thing, so I went and I went home the same day. That was all good. But then the other one was same year I went to Reading as a steward. So it was like with Oxfam you went you paid essentially the price of the ticket and then as a deposit, and then you work the festival and then you get it back afterwards. And that was really fun because I saw 21 Pilots at that festival. It was the first time I saw 21 Pilots.
Cool. That's awesome.
Also an insane show. But that was like the only reason I went, because then it was like I was working in a sense, and I was 19 and I was getting into live music for the first time. It was a good time, but I don't want to do it that much. I like being in my own bed and not camping.
Not been a ton of people. Anyway, so this guy is like, talking about this festival.
sorry.
And everything. It's fine. And I was like, I was trying to be helpful, so I googled a ton of things for him, and then he was so glad that I helped him, basically, which he could have done that as well. But anyway, he left me a 100 quid tip.
Damn.
Whoa!
Come again. Once you're
Please.
finished with the festival, please come back.
That's so nice. That goes beyond just the normal American, like,
Oh.
no, tip in, here it is. That's very
100%.
kind.
One
that's
of
lovely.
my boss Chris was there the whole time, just lurking around because he likes to do that. I love you, Chris. You're great. And
Way you
after
describe his activities were not the most. Hello.
I always made him coffee and tea in the morning. That was the routine.
Anyway,
Anyway,
my
Just
lurking.
flying to Dementor.
just,
No, it's my creepy goblin lurking.
yeah, just lurking around the corner like, huh?
Chris, I'm sure you're nothing like any of what we just did. I'm so sorry.
No, he's the sweetest man. He's the sweetest man. And then basically, once the guy left, Chris and then one of our regulars, Simon, just came around like from both sides, and they were like, "That guy was flirting with you." I was like, "No, he wasn't. He was gay." And they were like, "How do you know?" I was like, "Did you see his bag? It was literally the rainbow colors."
You could just
You
be
know,
an ally and
some people
supportive,
just like
or
rainbows.
there's a lot of different spectrums of sexuality. So
But he also had a
Yeah.
pin saying, "I'm gay."
Can't
I was
tell if
like,
you're being serious or not.
there's another shoe here.
I'm gonna go get my my vitamin really fast. I actually just needed to get my vitamin.
There you go.
I'd like to just point out, I'm hoping that we're okay, but because we're getting some work done on the front of our house, which means that our internet is currently being beamed in via satellite, essentially, very fun and cool system, but it also means that the upload speed is not as nearly as good as the download speed, because the upload speed has to go up to a satellite in order to get out of here. So I'm hoping we're okay. I am apparently dropping some frames, is all I'm saying.
Oh.
So this might, hopefully this won't be too choppy, but we might have a couple of like ill instances, which is why then I would encourage people to hopefully listen to the audio version of the podcast if something absolutely terrible happens. I know we were making jokes about it before, but like actually the audio version might end up being a bit more streamlined.
The title of
but
this episode should
Ian
be
says
"Do Not Watch."
we're good so
the video.
far. So hopefully we're fine.
It's chaos everywhere. Anyway, let's jump to the next segment if we are done with the news.
I think we're done with the news. I couldn't find anything that was actually particularly of interest in the past couple of weeks. I'm sure there was stuff that I couldn't find, but I was going through Variety and the Hollywood Reporter, and I was like, I can't be bothered.
The Spider-Man trilogy, the original Sam Raimi one, reopened in movie theaters, I think, in the States.
Oh wow!
And it made a lot of money. And people are thinking it might be a resurgence of potential Sam Raimi Spider-Man 4. That's the only news.
Fun. I'd like that.
Yeah. So there we go.
Toby can come back anytime. We love Toby. He's a good guy.
I'm still saying, if we do bring in a Spider-Man to the Venom movies, I want it to be Andrew Garfield.
He's just my I love Andrew Garfield.
I also just think the idea of Andrew Garfield versus Tom Hardy Venom is just everything I want in life.
What's funny is that they just did you probably
right,
know
yes,
about this.
the 1984 Audible thing. I need to get
Audible
listen to that.
with my boy Andrew Scott.
Yeah.
I love Andrew Scott. He seems like a
Cynthia
lovely
Erivo
person
as well. We did speak about this before. Cynthia Erivo is also in the
yes, and Tom Hardy and Andrew Garfield. Yeah, it's a great cast.
Great little cast.
Yeah.
Which I think we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, but it's just always good to remind people that there's some good content out there for them to get to.
Yeah.
But yes, I am done with the news.
Okay. Then the favorite question of the day comes in. What have you been watching lately? And we're going to start with Brian, because why the hell not?
Well, I've been traveling a lot, so all I've watched is The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, and that's it.
Good
for
watches.
The last week or so. Thank you. Yeah, my friend and I every year we rewatch The Dark Knight. It's just one of our favorite films, and we found some new stuff in it that was quite cool. I was still taken aback and struck every single time by the fact that Heath Ledger was 27 when he played the part. I'm now 29. So it's just odd to see someone relatively so young, I mean, he objectively really young, doing something so brilliant and fun. He's having such a great time, and just weird to think that, he was a huge inspiration for me as an actor, and now I've gone past his age, and that's quite sad and strange, and it doesn't seem like that should be, but that was really, really lovely to see, and just that whole film is just brilliant. And then watched The Dark Knight Rises, and that was okay. It's compared to The Dark Knight, it's not The Dark Knight, but it's okay.
It's a bit of a mess. It's still
big.
It's still like proficient filmmaking, but yeah, you're right. It's too big. There's too much going on in it. I also just never understood how he falls. He like falls down a hole at one point, and then when he climbs out, he's back in Gotham, and it was like.
I know, and also the fact that we're I think meant to believe that, because in the comics, Bane breaks, spoilers for The Dark Knight Rises 2012. Tom Hardy's Bane breaks Christian Bale's back. At least that's what happens in the comics. It's the when the bat breaks the whole thing. But so it gets fixed, I guess, kind of. But then he keeps falling when he's going out of the tunnel, trying to climb out of that hole, which would you presume would break his back again, or like cause some sort of like injury in his spine. So that's a bit strange. But no, there's a lot of weird logical holes throughout that film. And I think if The Dark Knight hadn't been such a tight, well-paced, told story, then The Dark Knight Rises would have been, I think, probably received better. But it's so hard to go from The Dark Knight to The Dark Knight Rises. I believe, but it's still good.
It's still better than any of the DCU film movies.
I would agree as well. Yeah,
That's I think
So
that's
much
fair.
better.
That's a
It's
fair
Christopher
assessment.
Nolan.
I get it's so funny. We've got an ongoing joke, myself and my best friend, about how any basically if you ask any like film guy white boy what his favorite movie is, it's like, oh yeah, it's The Dark Knight. It's the best movie of all time. It's
It,
just the
Did you
most.
just?
It's so. It's sorry, but it's so. It is. It like I'm not. I'm not coming at you. I
no, no, no.
promise.
It's
It is.
it's not
But
my
it is.
favorite movie.
But no. But like, if you there are. It's just like a
Yeah,
certain
yeah,
specific type. Because I went to
for
film
sure.
school. These are the types of people I went to film school with.
Yeah, yeah,
Where they
yeah,
act like it is the
yeah.
utter pinnacle of filmmaking. I'm like, it's a very good movie. We don't need to calm down.
Isn't either that or like Inception, right? It's like between those
It's
two.
usually
But
The Dark Knight, though.
yeah, I mean, objectively, it's always on my top 5 lists. Lord of the Rings will always hold first place though for me. All the films. So, but
It's like I understand where it comes from. It's just it's one of those things that I can't help but chuckle at it every single time now because
this is such a cliche.
it's such a cliche to
Yeah,
me.
I think if Heath Ledger wasn't, he was such a sensitive,
Mm.
kind actor in person from what I've read and seen in interviews, and I think if he hadn't been that film, it would be a good movie, but it wouldn't be what it is. And I
It's
think
true,
I
and
mean, it's
I will never deny that it's an excellent film because
yeah,
I do. We came up with this whole we this was like an ongoing joke for a while, and then I went back and I rewatched and I was like, this is a good movie.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
it
I'm
is.
not saying
It's
it's
a
not.
very good movie.
It's a very good movie. It's a tight film that is exceptionally well put together, but it's
It
just
is.
it's just funny to me.
No, it is. It's a stereotype. What did you guys watch this last week?
um,
Katie's turn.
is okay. It's my turn. I've actually been watching stuff again.
Woo!
I'm free from the video game. It's not really a hell, but it was a prison. That's also too harsh. But
Oh my
box,
gosh,
box. I was in a box.
Paige, like where are
I,
you going with this?
I just mean that like I was only like my brain was not like in the mood to watch anything. It was like
Yeah,
only
yeah.
video games. So I finished Disco Elysium and it was like, oh, I'm free. I
Mhm,
can
mhm.
watch things again. Obviously we were talking about the thing that kind of got me back into watching stuff in a minute, but I've also gone back to my rewatch of Hannibal. I'm halfway through season 3 now, so I'm nearing the end. It's so funny watching it again because I haven't seen it since it aired like 10 years ago, week to week. And I know, like, Hannibal and Will is such a popular ship on Tumblr, and it has been since the show aired. And I don't think I had a concept of just how insane that relationship is until I started watching, like, the latter half of season 2. You are sitting there like, these men are in love with each other. It's like,
Mm.
it is like, I watched the last scene of season 2, like, mouth agape with, like, why is this one of the most romantic things I've ever seen? There's 4 people bleeding out on the floor, and I'm like,
Oh my gosh,
that is romance.
that's true romance right
That's
there.
romance
Yeah.
right there. But it is genuinely there's a charged energy to the whole thing, and I just
Mm.
16-year-old me did not have the tools to recognize just how intense that whole thing was.
Yeah,
It's so it's
that
nice
makes
going
sense.
back to it now, as an adult, who has
Yeah.
lived a bit more and all that sort of stuff. But I'm really enjoying that. But the big thing was I went and saw Challengers in the cinema, and it fucking
Yeah.
slaps. It's
I've heard it's
such a good
fantastic.
movie. I was like the only things I saw about it were that Zendaya's in it. It's kind of been put as the Zendaya tennis movie, and there's that bit in the trailer where they both kissing her neck, right? And I was like, oh, so like it's the sexy Zendaya tennis movie, right? That's kind of the way it's been. And I knew that there was kind of a love triangle thing going on, but like I think it's just executed really well in a way that is not just going over the same things you see every time in like a love triangle thing, because I think most
Yeah.
love triangles are more like love arrows where the last point at the bottom is not actually attached, but they're both attached to like the woman in the middle. Not true in this
Mm.
case. It's very much a
Mhm.
triangle, and that's all I'll say.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that people weren't expecting that. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, it's just fantastic, and it's one of those ones where it started losing me a little bit around the second half of the film. I was like, okay, we're getting into like some slightly boring territory. Like I wanted more about like this part of some stuff and all that stuff. The ending brought the whole thing back together for me in the way that
Mm.
I haven't felt since I saw Parasite. I
Oh wow,
just
wow.
like it genuinely was like, oh shit, no, this is a good ending that really ties everything together so well. yeah, it's fantastic. I really highly recommend it if you can get a chance to watch it. It's a
I really want to see it.
really fun cinema experience.
But Katie, is it The Dark Knight?
They're different movies.
There's no other movie.
Is
aside from
it the Dark Knight though? That's the question.
We can't be comparing movies with entirely different premises.
Yes, you can.
You know, I love the Mona Lisa, but is it The Dark Knight? I
Yeah.
just don't know.
Exactly.
No, it's an excellent movie. And then on Tuesday, because I saw that on Monday morning, which was nice. I haven't seen a movie in the morning in ages. It was really nice because there was not that many people in the cinema, so I was having a grand old time. And then on Tuesday, I went and saw Little Miss Sunshine because I haven't seen it in a very long time, and they were showing it. And I also, I said it in our group chat. It is genuinely one of the best movies ever.
It's lovely. Yeah, it's a lovely
I
film.
hadn't seen it in such a long time, but I was laughing so much, and like it would go from laughing intently to like really emotional within like a split second. That scene where Paul Dano's Dwayne realizes that he is colorblind is outstanding. It's so emotional. And then the entire ending of the movie is just bonkers and brilliant, and it's just a great film that I had forgotten just how good it was until I got to see it at my favorite place. So yeah, great movie. Lily, tell me about this thing that has apparently been making you cry.
Oh God. So I haven't been able to watch anything new. Like literally, I started movies and I turned them off, not necessarily because they were bad, but because I just can't. I have such a huge fatigue of
Everything.
Oh God, we will have to talk about this at one point because I am starting to realize what my problem is with new stuff.
Okay.
New stuff. Also putting it like that.
New stuff to you, I think is probably a good way of putting it.
Why?
Well, just because like you might, the things might not be new, but it will be new to you. Are you not catching my drift here?
Nah.
Not everything that you're going to be watching is necessarily brand new, but it will be new to you if you haven't seen it before.
Well, yes, but I'm specifically talking about like new movies.
Okay.
Movies that are coming out.
Okay.
Because I have a main problem with them, like you know, and I'm starting to realize why. I just had a conversation about it with someone, and I'm like, yes, that's something.
It's because they're not The Dark Knight, right?
Exactly.
That's the last thought.
I'm kicking you out of this call if you can.
It was the rule of threes. We just had to finally wrap it up.
But that's the reason. Yes, it's not The Dark Knight. None of them are.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this thing is, I started watching it a year ago, and I only watched the first episode, and I was like, no, I ain't watching this. Even though I love them, all of the characters and all of the actors. It's a Korean TV series, obviously. It has Lee Dong-hyuk, who's in Sweet Home, and he's gonna have his last appearance before military service in Sweet Home 3. So you know, be excited for that. But he's in this, and he's fucking brilliant in it. And I don't know why I decided not to watch this when I first started it. But now I was like, I need to watch something. Like, I need to force myself to watch something. And I went back, and now I am at episode 8. I just cried my eyes out again for the 100th time, basically. It's titled The Good Bad Mother. It's a Netflix limited series. Just beautifully done. Basically, the main plot is that Lee Dong-hyuk's character, Kang Ho, loses... basically all of his abilities. He goes back to being a 7-year-old in mentality and whatnot after an accident. And his bad mother, who's the good bad mother, is taking care of him after, you know, so basically before the accident, he made her sign an adoption paper to give him up, basically. And after the accident, it's like, you know, it's looming around the mother and whatnot. But it's like the way everyone plays in this show, which has very funny moments, but very heartbreaking ones as well. Like especially now with episode 8, I was like bawling my eyes out. Literally, it's so beautifully done. It has all the magic that I've been missing from from a ton of things lately. And I did read what the ending is going to be, because I was like, if it's going to be traumatizing, I'm not going to be well afterwards. So I need to know how much I will cry at the end. And I can report that I will cry my eyes out.
Mm-hmm.
I will still watch it.
Sometimes you just need to be a little bit prepared before you go into something.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just like the not knowing is actually too much of an anxiety driver for you to enjoy the thing properly.
Yeah, no.
Oh yeah, actually, I'm so sorry. That's how I feel about Baby Reindeer. I had to stop. I watched a little bit this week, and I just couldn't. It was just too much, and
I have heard it's very intense.
I mean, it was brilliantly done, and I think it's a really brave thing to do, and I think it's a story that is, from what I've seen so far, I haven't finished it, but is really worth telling and important. It was just too much for me. I was like, this is, I'm feeling like when you don't know where something's going, sometimes that can be a good thing. Sometimes it's like, ooh, I didn't sign up for this emotionally. Like I'm not in a place to deal with this right now and to feel this and to kind of go there. So I totally get that.
Yeah, I looked it up. Like I need to know the ending kind of way, like at least part of it, because they revealed something in episode 7 and I was flabbergasted by it, and I was like, oh no. I am not prepared for this. What the fuck? So I look for it specifically. Like, is this thing that I'm thinking is gonna happen at the end? And the answer was yes. And I was like, fuck you all. Like, why? Why did I choose the saddest, most heartbreaking thing ever? That's also fucking beautiful, by the way. So if you haven't seen The Good Bad Mother on Netflix, highly recommended. I'm at episode 8. It's 14 episodes, a limited series. Very good, indeed. And then the only thing I could watch, and I watched it like 4 times, so I know the monologues again, which was like already in my brain, but now I know them again word by word. Was Joker.
As we can tell, he's been in a great mental space for the past couple of weeks.
That was Dark Knight, Joker.
Different vibes.
I truly, I mean, I think about, because there was that trailer that dropped obviously a little while ago of the second Joker, which I think Lady Gaga is brilliant. I really can't believe she does. I wouldn't be seeing it otherwise, though. That is weirdly, I think Heath Ledger's Joker is a lot more human in some ways, in terms of like, not human, that's not the right word. He's a lot more light, I guess. There's more humor, I guess, weirdly, and is the word I'm looking for. There's more like levels, whereas the way that the whole world of Joker,
it's
every
a depressive movie. Like it's quite intentionally.
Exactly, and I always find it hard and I understand it's good to talk about mental illness. I think it's incredibly important. I just find it difficult when there's no levity in anything, because I feel like life, even when things are really, really bad, there's still a little bit of like something that kind of like offsets. There's always that both and, you know what I mean, and all things. And I remember watching that Joker being like, that was really, really cool, and I never want to watch that again because it's just so heavy. But you watched it a couple times, and I'm glad you enjoy it.
In the past week.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I haven't been great mentally, if you can tell. And when I first watched Joker, which I still can't remember, Elliot, did I watch it with you? I think I watched it with Elliot. I don't remember. I have to ask him when we're at Comic-Con. Or I can just ask him. But anyway, it really
hold on to it for like another 4 weeks until you see it.
No, I don't. It really hit something, like, especially with me. I think I rewatched it so many times this time around, because it's the whole, because there's many aspects to Arthur's story and what he's going through, but I think one of the main thing is not feeling like he's loved and wanted, in a way that was like, hit a very big nerve with me. So yeah, I know the monologues again. So if I go to an audition, I'm gonna take the Joker monologue from the end.
Joker's one of those favorite one. Joker's one of those ones that I enjoyed, and like fine when I saw it in the cinema. I thought it was, it's a there is a mood that is set. It is, I think it's a mood piece, really, more than anything else. It's very much there's a vibe as a piece. But I can't enjoy it nearly as much because I didn't enjoy it really in a vacuum. So the fact that everybody got so intense about it put me off post seeing the movie. Like, I don't think I'd be able to watch it as like critically or objectively is probably the better word, as objectively as I might have, I did when I went and saw it initially, because I thought, it's a good movie, but like the way people talk about it got on my nerves. So it's like
but Katie, we live in a society.
Oh, don't.
Exactly.
I'm gonna but it's like I get the same way with Taylor Swift, where I'm like, she's fine.
That's not where I thought that was gonna go.
I've been thinking about this a lot recently because she's fucking everywhere. I don't mind her. I get annoyed at the fact that everybody holds her up as like the pinnacle of art, and I'm like,
Oh yeah.
please stop. It's that kind of a thing, and I'm like, I'm always happy when people really connect with movies. I will never take that away from anybody, but I get that there is something about and I'm not saying that Joker's mediocrity, but there is something about the elevation of something that is like, is good to like, it can be like insane on a personal level, but like trying to suggest that like everybody should be feeling the exact same way about something because you feel a certain way about it pisses me off. Like it really gets on my nerves. It's fine. I love it. It's a good movie. I'm not trying to suggest otherwise. It's just that attitude about it. Like, I think it ended up in two different camps where people were like, no, this is like absolutely, it's not, it's like a nothing movie. And I'm like, well, that's not true either. Can we actually assess the piece of art for what it is as opposed to what other people are trying to make it into? I think that's the thing, there's a lack of objectivity that annoys the fuck out of me.
Yeah, and I think with anything, and I know we have to talk about Dead Pet Detective Club, It Too, Doomsday, what else can I say?
Doomsday,
Amazon Prime time,
Fallout and
Fallout 5.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think with any piece of media, you'll always have people. I think there's typically, to really generalize, like three sides of any like perspective. There's ones who are super pro this thing, super anti this thing, and then somewhere in the middle where it's like, well, it's kind of more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
But the loudest voices are typically the pros and the people who are more like against it, I think, with anything, but especially with something that had such a, for whatever reason at the time, such a cultural significance as Joker did,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
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 It's something about like I have a need for people to actually respond to art in a nuanced way, and when they don't do that, it's like, well, then you're not. Then we start getting into the discussion about media literacy again, and then, like, that's just a whole fucking rabbit hole that we could go down, which we don't need to. It's just one of those things. I've been thinking a lot about it recently, mostly because of Taylor Swift.
It all goes back to Taylor Swift.
Back to Taylor Swift. Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, I'm glad that you've been getting something out of it. That means that genuinely, I don't want it to make it seem like I'm shitting on you, because I would never want to do that, or shitting on a thing that you care about. Like, it makes me very happy that you've been getting some catharsis out of that.
Yeah, I wanted to add to that too. It's just like, I think it is beautiful that people can take things from films and they can find. I mean, that's the I think the point of it. It's not just to entertain, but to find comfort and to find healing through I don't want to call it media, but stories. So I think I think that's a beautiful thing that affects you in that way. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool.
Fair enough. Let's talk about the Doomsday Club.
Doomsday Pet Detective.
The ghost boys.
Ghost Protocol. Mission Impossible.
What a great film.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I've got a bunch of really good things to say about it, but I feel like you had things you want to say about why you didn't enjoy it, and I would think I want to get that out of the way first, so then I can gush.
So I will just preface before you both get into it. I did not watch it this week. I was traveling for a large part. So I'm going to mediate and facilitate the conversation as much as possible. And if there becomes a brawl or there's a brawl that starts between you two,
Look,
I will try.
If I reach through the screen and be like, what?
Yeah, to de-escalate the situation. So
that's probably going to be Katie attacking me, by the way.
No, I'm being very civil. I might cry, but that's a different question.
So Lily, what did you think about the show?
No, look, I know you didn't like it.
No.
I am curious as to, do you think it, that it's my ultimate question that I always bring up when we do this.
Yes.
You didn't like it. Did you think it was actively bad? You do have to answer the question.
Oh, yeah, right, sorry.
I'm just saying, we are a podcast. When we have moments of silence, it becomes bad for the people listening.
We've been filming this entire time.
Yeah.
I'm
Did
afraid
you know?
So.
I wouldn't have mentioned the Dark Knight as much. I would have mentioned it more.
Yeah, exactly. Because Dark Knight is the best, as we all know. Anyway, was it actively bad? Will the answer that I skipped some parts?
No. I genuinely want you to pick apart for me what it is that you actually feel about it, because that's all I want. Always when we do this, is I want a genuine criticism, you know, and I'm fine with that. I might be sad, but like I'm just going to be able to talk about the thing that I like about it anyway.
Katie is currently welling up with tears.
Yes, that's
okay.
meltdown.
Just in readiness for this, yeah.
First of all, I love Neil Gaiman, so that's the first thing. So I was interested in this when they first announced it, because Sandman, which I have down here, but you're not gonna see it, but it's down here. I have all the Sandmans, and I love Sandman very dearly. I was very hopeful for this one. I thought that it's going to be the one that's going to pull me out from this whole fatigue and being tired of things and whatnot. And then it just fueled the whole thing for me, basically. And yeah, and because when it came out, I watched the first 10 minutes and turned it off immediately. I was like, oh, no, this is not hitting anything with me. Like, both of the main actors are lovely, wonderful. I just couldn't enjoy them here at all. I can't really put my finger on it. Why? There's not a specific reason for it. I think it's just, in a way, it wasn't what I expected at the end of the day from the whole thing. You know, we did have a conversation, because I did say a thing that was really, you know, I didn't. No, but I didn't want to hurt anyone's feeling, and I didn't mean it that way. So I think I finally grasped what I meant by it.
Cool.
I said in our group chat that I am tired of queer stories. That's what I wrote, and that was the end of the sentence. And obviously, again, I'm with the community 100%. I do not have any problems with queer stories when they are meant to be queer stories. And what I mean by that is that lately there has been a trend where fan service played a huge part in turning characters that originally weren't in the community in there. And it really, really heavily said on those things, feeling like that they did it because the fans were crying about it and it didn't serve a specific purpose in the story, and it felt like, you know, hey, look at us, we did it for you guys, love us, whatever. And it shows, because I genuinely think that there are so many great stories out there that are specifically for queer people, for the gays, for the lesbians, whatever, that are originally there. And I just don't get why we are changing things that are not meant to be there in a way. And
I'm so sorry to interrupt. I'm curious. So, because I haven't seen the show, are you referring to this show, or are you referring to another show?
In general.
Okay.
In general, because it's a trend. Obviously, it's a trend as well because it is.
No, no, no. I don't. I'm not disagreeing with you. I think I think especially queer audiences can tell when it's disingenuous. And it can we there have been things. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that I've seen that I felt like, oh, this just feels like it's ham-fisted.
Yeah.
I feel like it doesn't. I don't know if you felt any differently by the end of it, but I do think it's built into this show very intensely, especially for Edwin, who's there. It's kind of it is his arc, and it over the course of the season. So I feel like I can see what you mean generally speaking, but I don't know if I agree that it applies here. But I will let you continue as well.
Yeah. No, I think it's just that. So that's what I meant by that. I it just didn't have the thoughts at that moment. I just it just came out as a blunt sentence, and I shouldn't have said it like that because it's hurtful, and I didn't mean it like that. Like in no. I don't. I think my biggest problem with it is that as great as Sandman was, this does not live up to it,
It's not the same. I know that.
It's not, and it's like if you watch the Sandman and then you watch this, it's like Sandman, this for me at least.
Where
like
would
even yes.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was going to say, where would Good Omens be within that kind of like?
Good Omens. The first season would be very close to Sandman, and then the second is like.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna stop talking. So.
Yeah. And a lot of times, and that's I think that's my biggest reason. A lot of times it felt not too well written.
I won't disagree with that. I think there's times where it gets a little like it dips a little bit, and I'm happy to admit that. But for me, the stuff that I liked about it meant that I didn't mind the points where it like dips. Like the pilot is it's messy. But it's like messy in a very piloty way. It reminded, so watching it, I was very much reminded of a lot of like it very much reminded me of a pilot of like a general like procedural show that I would have watched on like, pardon me, on like NBC or CBS or anything like that. Those kinds of shows, which is part why I think I enjoyed it so much because it reminded me of those things. But like a teen, like it was also like a teen drama that I would have wanted to see when I was a teenager. It was like it just hit on a lot of stuff that like I loved from a long time ago and I haven't seen in a while. Is the kind of thing. So like the bits of it that weren't quite as good, with like the first episode has a lot of over exposition. It just does. Like it's got like pilot-itis where everybody's like, we're just gonna say things in order to like establish some stuff, and I'm like, okay. It's like I was like, all right, we'll kind of navigate this as we go. I think it gets better as it goes on because it doesn't need to keep setting things up. It can kind of let everybody be as they are. But yeah, no, I don't disagree that it's got moments where there's like dips in quality. When I sent you the message where I was like, it feels gaming-ish, I just watched the scene with Death in the first episode, which was written by Neil.
Yeah.
So it was like, there's like moments in it where you're like, there's 3 scenes that Neil wrote over the course of the show, which are all really excellent scenes. And they are like high quality bits, but it just reminds me a lot of like, so a lot of the creatives, finish a sentence, Katie. A lot of the creatives behind it are ex-Supernatural alumni.
Yes.
I was about to ask.
So we've got Jeremy Carver and Steve Yoki, I think his name is. I just realized that I'm like going off the memory of seeing the name but never having heard of it. Richard Speight Jr. directs the 7th episode, which I think is my favorite. I think it's my favorite of the season. I think it's my favorite. I think it's a genuinely excellent episode all around. So there's a lot of like old Supernatural stuff. So there's parts of it that kind of remind me of like bits of Supernatural that I did enjoy in that kind of campy way. But no, it's not. This is what I mean by it's not prestige television. And I don't want to sell it to people as prestige television, whereas I think that The Sandman is prestige television.
It is.
Mhm.
And there's nothing wrong with those two things being like different, and I think it's so much of like being able to enjoy something is being able to come to it as it is, as opposed to what we're hoping for it to be. Because if you're hoping for it to be something like as intense and as insane and so well crafted as the Sandman, you're never gonna feel as good about it.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, that's where my problem lies, because if it's something that not necessarily plays in the same universe as the other thing, then it's a different story. But then when you put something in the same universe as you did before, I'm like,
yeah, it's a fair criticism.
Mm.
I will go into it and be like, Sandman was fucking great. I hope this is no,
Yeah.
it's not. Okay,
It's not.
great.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
Is it kind of because again, I'm the odd person out here because I haven't
Yes.
watched it. This might be controversial, but is it similar to like Lord of the Rings versus the Hobbit movies, where like the tone was just completely different with the Hobbit versus Lord of the Rings?
It's not a bad comparison, honestly.
Okay.
I feel like...
Cool.
Okay, but here's the thing: I can't talk on that because I fucking love the Hobbit, all of them.
Oh, okay.
I think
Katie,
it works as a decent comparison in that way. In that, like, a lot of people didn't vibe with the Hobbit. But I think in a lot of ways, but then some people in this metaphor, this would be me, found something very, very specific in it that I actually really enjoyed that was different from the previous thing. So it's I don't think the comparison is entirely without merit.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
But sorry, I have to go. You mentioned the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings. I think why I can like separate these two, even though it's entirely the same universe and almost like it's just a timeline difference, is because Tolkien wrote the Hobbit specifically for kids. And Peter Jackson very, very wisely grabbed that aspect of it, even though he made it darker by the end a little bit. But not entirely true, because Thorin, Keely, and Fili all die in the book as well. So that's like, not... You know what I mean. I was able to be like, this ain't gonna be the Lord of the Rings. Because I obviously read the books, and there's a major difference between them as you look at them. While I look at the Sandman, and then...
question, have you read the Dead Boy Detective comic?
Yes, I have.
Okay, I had a feeling you probably might have done, but I was curious. That was my curiosity.
Yes, I read everything that is Gaiman. Obviously, because I love Neil Gaiman a lot.
I'd like to apologize if I'm having a little bit of trouble connecting to you guys at the moment. I think we've
you keep freezing.
Yeah, we'll come back a little bit.
At one point, you froze like this.
Yeah,
and it was like it was great.
Yeah, you're freezing on my end, which is the more important thing, because I'm the one streaming.
Brilliant.
Yay!
But no, your sound is still coming through. It's just your video has been a bit sticky.
I hope it was like or something like that.
Not nearly as dramatic, but there you go. Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I understand that entirely. And when I was watching it, I was sitting there thinking, I didn't think you were gonna hate it.
I didn't hate it.
No, I didn't
hate it.
I didn't, but I was sitting there like, I can tell just how much this is like a thing that feels like it's made for me. You're not gonna come anywhere close to the way I like it. And I thought you'd like on a baseline be like, it's fine. I thought that was about so the fact that when you told me, they were like, I tried to sit down and watch it, I was like, I wasn't even expecting you to do that. I'm not gonna lie. I was like fully assuming you were gonna stick it on whilst you were drawing. I was not expecting you to sit down and like try and I bless you for that. But I know it's not that. I don't think it for you. It's not that kind of a thing.
No,
and that's fine. You watched all of it.
I did, yeah.
Okay.
And I'm just to clarify, I'm not saying that it's like completely shit and don't watch it. Like, that's not the message here. Just because I personally didn't vibe with it at all, I can see why people, because I read like a few like comments and reviews and whatnot. I can understand why people vibe with it. It's just, for me,
it's not fair for you.
No,
and that's totally fine. This is honestly, and why I like doing this, because there's been things that you've come for me, and I've been like, this is not my vibe. I can see what's good about it. It doesn't hit for me in the way that it hits
Yeah.
for you, and like that's fine. That's all we like. All I want from any kind of discussion is like a genuine, honest, like just picking apart of like, why didn't this work for me personally? Do I think that that is actually the show, or how much of that is me, and how much of that is just like those two things coming together? That's like fine, and like
Yeah.
everybody comes with their own things. Do you have more to say?
No,
Okay.
I think I said all I wanted. So Brian, lead the interview.
Brian,
Ask Katie questions.
lead me into things.
I forgot that I was actually on the pod. I was just like, oh wow, sleep sounds so nice. No, I'm joking. I was actually trying to think of a question, and this might have to be split into two parts. But I was going to ask, Lily, what were the things you did like about it, if anything? And Katie, what were the things that you could see that might be improved upon?
Ooh, interesting.
Kind of flipping it, reversing.
Do you want to think about that for a second? Because I can talk on.
No, because the answer is behind you.
You like my guys?
Yeah. Yeah.
Specifically her?
Yeah.
Understandable. I love her.
she was great.
Like several times watching the series, I went, "Oh, I love her!" Like out loud.
Yeah.
Like just couldn't keep it. She's the best. Like, genuinely.
Honestly, I think she's the greatest part of it all.
She's up there. I think, and I don't tend to connect with female characters nearly as much as I connect with male characters. I think it's part of it is because I watch a lot of things where male characters are just written better by men in a lot of ways, and the women tend to like even unintentionally they just hit wrong because they're not written by people who kind of understand them properly.
Yeah.
Nico is one of those very few rare things where I'm like, oh, I just adore her. She's just like the energy that Yu brings to her is so sweet.
Yeah.
She's so autistic. It's honestly the best thing in the world.
She's great.
I think actually one of the, and I will go into the things I think could be changed about, and I don't think hit quite as well, but like, but I think one of my favorite things, generally speaking, is that I think all the women in this show are actually quite interesting in different ways, and they're all very distinct from each other. Like everybody's got a lot of different problems, but all of these women they don't feel like just different dressings of like a woman archetype. It feels like these are all very distinct female characters from each other. Some of them more likable than others, which is part of why I like them. But yeah, to the point of the question that you asked though, I'm not blind to things that aren't necessarily entirely great about it. Like I said, the pilot it relies heavily on a sense of over exposition. In places like when I was watching, I was like, that is a bit like, and all I could see was like studio notes in the way that it was like in things that were written where it's like, we need audiences to get this like immediately, so I need you to write that in. Sort of that was the vibe I was getting from some of the dialogue, really heavily setting up things like Edwin and Charles's relationship and how death is coming after them, and they really don't want to go away from each other, and all like it's like you don't have to think at all in those kind of in that early episode. Pardon me. I think the show peaks with episode 7. Episode 8's not as strong. It's got some strong points, but I feel like the ending hits a little like weak in comparison to some of the really high points of the show. I also just think that the show has a lot of space that it can grow into. It's like 8 episodes. It could be longer if they wanted it to. You could have more cases in there that could have been like really fun and all that sort of stuff. I think it suffers from a little bit from the fact that like it's not like it's 8 episodes. Like it could easily be 10. I think you could stick 2 more episodes in there and not lose anything out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are kind of my main things. I think every once in a while there's just like a heavy bit of over exposition that I'm like,
and that can sink it. I mean, really can. I had to turn off Avatar. We tried watching it a couple times because it was so exposition heavy. I felt throughout the series. It's like
nowhere close to that.
I really wanted to watch and like that show because I love the original series on Nickelodeon. So that's good to hear. Cool. All right.
Lily really enjoyed the live action Avatar: Last Airbender, so she's gonna take a second to be dramatic.
Oh no. Okay. Well, I understand.
But I
It's like,
entirely agree with you.
Wow. Are you flipping off me or
How
Khaleesi?
dare you? How
Which
dare you?
be right? You mean or?
We're not
It
friends
was-
anymore.
Well, did you watch the show? It wasn't the actor's fault. It was like the most like it really felt like they were trying to be dark, but also like they thought the audience was so dumb most of the time. I was like,
I kind
oh
of
come
agree.
on, like I can put two and two together. Sorry, you're getting unfiltered, tired, Brian, and like this is very much.
I think that there's a couple of moments in this. Because what was it? I had a point and it's completely disappeared from my brain.
Oh no, Lily's she's fuming.
I'm
right
ignoring
over there.
it whilst I'm trying to think of what my point was.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
I think that the thing about this that it means that it doesn't fall into that category is that it gets to then focus in on the cases, in between
Yeah.
episodes, so it doesn't need to think too hard about like suppressing a load of world lore into it. And it gets to focus in on the characters and their dynamics and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Zuko and Iroh.
yes, that is one of the great parts of the series. I'm not disagreeing. I do think it almost goes a little too heavy on like the in that way you were talking about, in like it was like pushing for an older audience but also speaking to a younger audience. There is a bit of like dissonance in some of the way, like there is a lot of like, and I love it when characters swear in anything. I am a big proponent for people swearing in shows, but this is very at its core, it's a teen drama. They're all meant to be teenagers. Not that the show ever really cares about the fact that they're meant to be teenagers.
Right.
It kind of like flip flops a bit weirdly, but they're all like, they're meant to be teenagers. But like some of the language that comes out is like, well, it's kind of bizarre that this is kind of meant to be for teenagers, but also I think Charles drops the C word in like episode 3, and I was like,
and just to preface for anyone, because we switched subjects without saying, we're talking about the dead boy.
Yeah, we're talking about the dead boy.
Not Avatar.
We're not talking about Avatar. I'm going back
yeah.
to the topic of the episode.
Yes.
There's no C word dropping in Avatar.
It'd be so funny if somebody in Avatar dropped. Oh god, maybe it would have. No, it's fine. Yeah, no, it's just there's like a tonal thing, but it's part of why like I kind of liked it in spite of like the fact that I feel like the tone doesn't necessarily match up every once in a while, because I know me as like a 17-year-old who was really into things like Being Human and The Fades and In the Flesh on BBC Three. That's exactly what I always wanted from like my teen dramas. Like, and like in that sort of like 16 to 30 bracket of like things that are promoted material, like age demographic. That's what the term I'm looking for. My ability to think of the correct words to describe things is just shit. The age demographic that this show is built for, that's the sort of thing I always wanted out of it, but it's almost too heavy at times, where I'm like, okay, wow. It's just interesting to me how that has changed, but like I also don't mind it that much, because like again, it's one of those things that like I wanted that, and now I'm seeing it, I'm like, interesting. Maybe we've gone a little bit too far here, but I'm not entirely against it. I don't know. It's one of those bits and pieces. But those are like my vague criticisms. I have so many things I can say that's great about it.
and I guess Lily already responded with what you did like about the show. Just being okay.
Delightful.
Well, actually, since you just said, what are some of the things you like about it? Because we didn't really talk about that.
Well, then, let me get into it, because I do want to sell this to people. Because
Lily's still upset about Avatar.
I really want to sell this to people, because the 4-day viewing figures were not entirely great, and it's one of those shows that watching it I was like, this has early cancellation written all over it, and I don't want that. I desperately want at least one more season, because I know it's really hard to squeeze Netflix for anything, but like I just think this has such a great... If this was on network television, we could have gotten like, I think 4 seasons out of it easy. right? And I'm like, it just has so much fucking potential, and I'm really, and it has brought me more joy than like most things I've watched in a really long time. Like, it's just a giddy sense of like, oh, I'm having a really good time. Which means
That's
that
lovely.
I've been having such trouble like pinpointing the things that I've actually thought were good versus the things that I've just been enjoying about it. So like things I love, characters. I love this boy so much. This is Edwin, my beloved Edwardian repressed. he's just he's you know he's such a bitch. I love him so much. No, but he's just such a little bitch. I love
That's Katie talking.
him. That is like that
Just
is
laughing. Like,
truly from like a deep place of this. Like, I'm having a great time when I'm watching this. But like, yeah, I love the characters. I love the fact that the theme of the show is essentially the kindness that you do to other people comes back around to you. And it gets they do that. They kind of tell you that a little heavy-handedly in the last episode, but it's like it is in everything. It's in how Crystal, who's here, it changes a person compared to who she was technically before the boys found her, because they were kind to her, right? And it's in the fact that Edwin is pushing to help all of these ghosts that have unfinished business, that who have like cases that nobody else is going to solve, so he's going to do it. You know, him and Charles are going to do it for them, right? And it's all those little things of like the entire DNA of the show is about just being there for other people and offering a sense of kindness, and how that actually does then come back to you. And on the flip side, when you fuck around as a witch and start eating children, that's going to come back at you as well.
You would hope so. Yeah.
In that sort of sense. I just love detective shows. That's another thing. And this, it's like, I love it. It's been such a long time since I watched a really good case of the week thing. I think all the little cases in them are really fun. I like the little, they do these little, they're not really vignettes, like title cards to like break up the episodes a little bit, to be like, this is what this bit's about, this is what this bit's about, which feels a little bit reminiscent of like, it feels a little comic-esque. Oh, bye.
yeah, what happened?
See ya.
Yeah, it feels kind of comic story-esque, you know. It feels like here's a little chapter, here's a little chapter, here's a little chapter, and I just enjoyed that as a thing. I think the opening sequence is banging. It's such a fun little opening sequence. The music's really fun, and you've just got neon skeletons doing little dances, and that's really great. Little bits and pieces. Like I said, I think episode 7 is where the show peaks for me. I watched the episode twice, like, because I watched up to episode 7 when I first started watching it, and then I was like, I know things are going to go wrong in this next episode, and I do have to go to bed because I work in the morning. So I'm going to wait here. And then when I went back the next day to watch it, I went and watched episode 7 again before going straight into episode 8, because I just everything about it is like, it's wonderful payoff. It's and I want to give a little shout out to George Rex Strew here. This is his first role, like first TV role. And he kills it. Like he
like, do theater or
he got this role straight out of acting school.
Drama school. Yeah. Okay.
So he got it like in 2021. He graduated during COVID. He went and did like an audition that was like, you know, came from the drama school and all that sort of stuff. And he booked it. And he's like leading this show, and he does such a good job of holding so much of it together. Like, yes, there's a lot when we talk about like queer storylines, and why I think that this isn't a show that feels like it's like ham-fisting things. I think it is actually so much of the stuff is built in. And I also like the fact that some characters are just queer, and it's not really about like that's not relevant to the story. It's just a case of that it is mostly in the form of Jenny, who's just, you know, Jenny's a lesbian. We love that. It's just like it's just a part of the show. But Edwin being gay is very much tied into his story, and it is a story about repression on his part, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like the exact same story of repression and shame that I've seen over and over and over again, because I feel like it doesn't read as like a story when like he comes to a realization about himself, but it's not fraught. It's just like, oh, I've never looked at this. Now I'm looking at it. I can't not look at it, and I have to get it out. And you know, the way it plays out comes from so much love and like appreciation on all people's parts. It's also just really funny watching this guy who's also very autistic coded walk around, have absolutely no concept of the fact that people are flirting with him, and just having boys throwing themselves at him for the entire series. Just that's just fun. That's just a fun thing for me. It's so cute, you know. Yeah, oppression story feeling like it comes from shame, not so much. I'm looking at my notes again. Let me go to my next page.
Go to the next page. Right.
Next one.
I was gonna do a Scouse accent, but I'm gonna.
Boy.
I
Yeah,
can do that accent.
when Edwin tries to feel the truth about himself, it's not played for agony. It's just realization, and then there's even a point in the show where he's like, when you start to realize something, you can't push that thing back in the box. It just has to come out, sort of a thing. And it's like he says it to another character about, you know, something entirely different, but you know he's talking about himself in that moment. And it's just I just think that whole thing was played really beautifully by our leads. I also want to give a shout out to Jaden. I think he does a really good job with Charles's whole story about like anger and coming from an abusive home. There's a lot of also themes of like people dealing with abuse. The way that these two guys died is horrifying and comes from like, you know, men abusing power in a way. It's a little bit different for Edwin because the way that they play that out is honestly one of my favorite. Again, that episode is just wonderful. As a little thing, I'm going to spoil a little thing, but Netflix has also spoiled it. They've put it out on. I know it says I put spoiler review, but I kind of want you to watch it, so I'm being more vague about it. So I don't want to give you too much away. But there's a scene in which Edwin meets despair, and it's really, really good. And it's one of the other scenes in the series that Neil wrote, and I think you can feel it when you're watching it, and it really sets up how genuinely terrifying despair has the capability to be. Her realm is really cool. The visuals of it are really interesting. It's such a short little scene, but it's played so interestingly. And has.
I'm looking forward to seeing it.
I'm so excited for you. Yeah, a whole host of excellent fucking women. I love Nico, and I love Crystal, and I love Jenny, and I love the really campy way that Ethel is played as a witch. She's just like she just looks like she's having the time of her life, being this like huge antagonistic sort of villain character. She's not subtle in any way, shape, or form. It's just a really fun performance, and it's like built into that. I really like also that Crystal story. So when we meet Crystal, she's been possessed by a demon, and when they get the demon out of her, she loses a lot of her memories. So she doesn't really have a concept of who she is when we start the series, and so she kind of rebuilds herself. And her story, again, about the abuse stuff, it's interesting because it's about domestic abuse, but written with her not as like a perfect victim, in that she's not like when we start to learn more things about her, she's not like victimized, and like she's not made small. She's not. She doesn't come from a place of being like sweet and innocent. Somebody took advantage of her. She was. I mean, somebody still took advantage of her, but she was also not a good person. So it's like it's a really interesting way to be like, you can still have sympathy for a person who, like, if you argued it in a certain way, would be like, well, she asked for it, you know. It's like no, it doesn't work that way. Still, you know, it muddies that victim narrative that I think we get pushed on, where we can only feel sympathy for somebody who has been abused because they were, you know, just entirely an innocent character, or they were just like demure or pure or anything along those lines. Where it's like sometimes people are fucking messy, and sometimes they're awful, and sometimes, you know, they do certain things themselves, doesn't mean that they deserve to be violated in any way, shape, or form. So I think that the way that they wrote that through and I love angry characters, and I think that that's part of the many reasons why I love her so much, because she's, a force in it. And she's also one of those characters that, immediately people are drawn to the two main, like, male leads, but she's been kind of, I feel like, left out of the conversation a little bit. She's wonderful in it. I do think so. I think she's a proper little punchy sort of thing in it, and an important part of the whole narrative. Like, you couldn't do a lot of the stuff without her. She's got a really cool power set and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, just like a lot. Most of the stuff that I have to say are like little details over the course of the series that I was like, I love that, I love that, I love that, I love that. Just like little things that made me happy, as opposed to like. Whereas, like, I can watch challenges and be like, this is really good because of like these technical decisions.
Right.
Everything that I enjoy about this is much more on like a pure emotional response level, where I'm like, that just made me really happy, because in whatever shape or form. And I just think it's nice. It's nice. It's fun viewing. If you want something, you don't. It's not like intense brain food, but you can give it as much as you want to be able to give it in that way. And I think there's I think it's damn shame that it's not like it's being really well reviewed. It's like got a really decent score on Rotten Tomatoes, and all the sort of critical response to it has been great. It's just not finding the audience at the moment, mostly because Netflix is fucking promoting it, so I'm doing their job for them. Please watch Devil Detectives on Netflix so that I can get a season 2 and potentially get these boys to meet Desire. I want that so bad.
Lily is actively working against that review.
Well, no, she watched the whole thing. She's done her part. We're
No,
all
no.
right.
I watched the whole thing.
I'm joking. It was merely a joke. I was just trying to
It was a
take
joke.
a little bit of humor into the podcast. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right, I forgive you.
Cheers.
Yeah, I think everybody is great in it. I really, these characters really just, I adored them all very quickly, and I will continue to do so. Nico, absolutely being up there as one of the major high points. But I also think that Nico and Edwin's relationship is one of my favorite things I've ever seen. Because he's so like against Crystal joining, because he's like, I've got my best friend, I don't need anybody else. And then like 2 episodes later, Nico comes in and he goes, I just find her so charming. And he's just like, I've adopted her now.
Because she is charming.
Yeah, she is charming. She's so charming, and
she's the best.
Lovely. I've seen her some of the interviews I've seen her in and stuff. Yeah, it's a really fun show, and if you're at all interested in it, I really heavily encourage you to watch it as soon as possible, because Netflix only really looks at the analytics for how many people watch to completion.
Yeah.
To put it in a terrible way, to watch the whole thing.
I did not even think that was bloody hell.
Watch the whole thing, like, and actually finish it. Those are the metrics that they look at within the first month. So if you're thinking about watching it, please do, and don't let the fact that Lockwood and Co. got cancelled very quickly, despite the fact that they didn't deserve it, put you off. Because the more people who watch it, the more we have a chance that we might get more. Also, the guys who made it want to make a Christmas special, which just,
that's sweet.
I want that.
Christmas specials are always good.
They were like, we want to do a proper British style Christmas special, and I'm like, I've never wanted something more in my life.
You've never wanted anything more than
in this moment. That's special. Where I'm at.
Fair enough. Well, I'm glad. I hope it happens.
We got extra episodes for Sandman, so like
it's true, but it's one of those like, yeah. I'm hoping. I hope that my enthusiasm, encourages you to give it a go, and even if you don't like it, you can stick it on mute and let it play to the end so that I get a chance.
Just let it go. Let it play out.
Let it go.
Let it go.
Like I'm so selfish about it. There's like, oh god, it's just like little bits of like really excellently delivered dialogue. There's a little argument that they have in, I think, the second episode. And there's just something about the way that George delivers lines that I find so entertaining. I think because he's got such a like clipped, like posh English accent, everything hits like perfectly. There's a line in the 7th episode where he swears. He doesn't swear really throughout the entire rest of the show. He swears once in the pilot episode, but we're kind of ignoring that because it's a pilot episode. But the only other time he swears is in the 7th episode where he delivers this line, and it's one of those ones that just like got stuck in my head because I love the way he said it so much, and I think it's a really fun line. Yeah, I just love it. I don't know what to tell you. Do you have any other questions, or shall I finish talking?
I was gonna say, I was actually gonna bring it back to Lily and say, has anything that Katie said made you reconsider your thoughts or reframed it in a certain new way, or are you pretty steadfast?
No, probably not.
Yeah, I think I answered.
No.
Well, I got my answer. Yeah.
I get it. Look, I get why Katie likes it. Like it's very much a show that was made for Katie. I can say that, but I can say that because I know her. So I at this point I'm like pretty confident that that's the truth of it. And we agree on a lot of things most of the time, but I think this is gonna go into the category where we disagree, and simply because we have different tastes.
Yeah, and that's good and healthy. And if we all agreed about the same thing, will it be a very dull place?
Yeah,
where
this
we
would be
all
a boring podcast.
Yeah.
This is true. Yeah.
It's like, again, I'm not saying that it's a bad TV show, because it's not. Like, I can see the charm in it. It just didn't get to me. That's it.
Yeah,
That's
fair
fair.
enough.
It's very fair. Yeah.
I don't think it's because I have a fitting, though. I will say that.
Yeah, no,
because
and
you
I
did
think
ask
that
me
is-
that.
Yeah, no, okay, and that's fair. And I think you explained yourself very well before. Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
Well, I think probably after this weekend when I'm back in the States again, because I've been jetting back and forth. I haven't been flying the plane. I've been in a plane. I haven't been jetting. I've been in a plane that's been jetting back and forth. Not the same plane. It's been a different plane. Anyways, when I'm back in the States for a bit, I'm definitely gonna give it a go. Yeah, I was looking forward to watching it. Just timing and sleep.
I would like to remind you at this point.
Yes.
You have other homework.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do my best to keep up. I'm doing my best. I'm also in this program. That's
Do you know what is your main homework, though?
My health.
The other homework that comes from here.
My relationship with myself and my friends
Again,
and family.
from here. Not
making sure I never watch Avatar, the live action series again.
Lily needs you to watch Train to Busan. That's your homework.
No, I know. I knew where that was going, but I was intentionally trying to be.
But also,
difficult. No,
I said it, Lily. I
that
did
is-
say
I
it.
I know, I
is-
heard you. I heard you. But also, that was the series that you didn't watch. You didn't come on the show, and you have 2 seasons to watch before the 3rd one comes out. Which one is that?
It's a show that you're about to say the title of.
It's a little show called Sweet Home.
Yeah, of course, Sweet Home. Yeah, everyone knows that.
It's coming in July. So,
Great. That is like 2 months away.
God, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
There was a moment earlier when you were talking about how old Heath Ledger was, and I had this second where I was like, I'm turning 27 this year. And then I looked at the date and went, I'm turning 27 in about a month and a half.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
time just flies away. Just
I
flies
think it's
away.
better. I think, it's really is a privilege to be able to get older and keep aging, I guess, really, like ultimately. And
Yeah.
I think
I mean,
that's the
I
thing, like,
yeah.
yeah. I used to be never getting like existential and like esoteric, but I used to be scared of like getting older. Now I'm like, I'm 29, bring on 35, bring on 40, let's fucking go. And just, it's because it's like ideally you do learn more about yourself and the world. And it is, like I said, it's a privilege because so many people aren't given the same allowance of time, which is awful and really, really, really nonsensical sometimes. So,
Oh, yeah.
What a privilege
Well,
it is to be alive.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to the endocrinologist last week because I had to. never going back again. He basically told me like 15 different ways I'm gonna die.
Fun.
None of them relates to my thyroid problem. Well,
Well,
one of them does. But basically, he said that they either gonna cut it out, or I will die from the medication that I take for it. And I'm like, great. You're not gonna cut out my thyroid when I'm 33. Thank you so much.
No, I
Like,
don't
Yeah.
think
you know,
you need to
No.
either, is the other thing. I really need to sit you down with my mother at some point. Like, you two have so much to talk about.
Probably, yeah.
I'm gonna read my last little. I've got like 3 little TLDRs bits.
Yeah.
Where I wrote TLDR. This show was made for me, and I underlined it.
Yeah.
Brackets, please watch. I've also, and you'll understand this when you get to it, but I've had Circles in the Sand by Belinda Carlisle in my head for the past week. It's a little scene. Somebody sings it. It's been in my head for a week.
Mm-hmm.
And then my final thing, which actually isn't my final thing because I had thought of another thing, but my final thing that I've written down, there's a character called Kashi that pops up at one point. I've got no idea what his fucking deal is, but I'm obsessed with him. Where does he come from? What's his vibe? He's very enjoyable, but also it's like, this is never touched on again. What is this?
It's like anomalous. Wow, that was
yeah, which it related. Ruth Connell, is that her name?
Ruth O'Connell from Supernatural.
Yes, her.
Yeah.
Is in this as a
Oh,
character
cool.
called the Night Nurse, and she's a delight.
I met her. She was really, really lovely. She was the person who inspired me to, one of the people who inspired me to go to drama school. We had like a
Wow.
5-minute chat about it. And she's like, I think you'd love it. And she was really, really like pro drama school. And I asked her, like, yeah, she was just a very, very kind person.
She's very much one of the parts of the show that I think it just seems like she's having a really like a great time playing the character that she's playing.
Good.
And her scene, she's the one who ends up interacting with this Kashi character, and it's just as a set of scenes, you're sort of like, what does this mean in the long run? But also, this was fun. My last bit was that one of the things I actually really enjoyed about the way that they made the show is that there's a couple of sequences where characters tell stories about, you know, where certain people come from and all that sort of stuff. And they do these little like segments of animation, but like the two I can remember off the top of my head are both gorgeous, but they've got both really distinct art styles. So there's a one where you find out the backstory of this character called Tragic Mick, and he tells his story, and it's like I don't even know how to describe the art style really, but it's like all these grays and like and all this sort of stuff. It feels like a storybook almost, and that's really beautiful. And you find out this backstory of the witch antagonist in a later episode, and it kind of looks like, I don't know if you ever saw the Tangled like animated show that they made. I give it a little Google because it's got like a really specific art style, but it looks very much like that with like the really big sort of doe eyes on the people and all that stuff. But it's about a witch. Yeah, it's such a nice little detail, and I really
those were good.
It was a good little thing.
Oh,
I'm
like
done
those
now.
Parts. There we go.
Yeah, there
sort
you
of middle ground.
We found
There it
another
is.
one. Awesome. So, you know, listen to Katie, not grumpy Lily. Lily is grumpy.
Or neutral Bri. You know,
Yeah.
that's what they called me back in the day. Neutral Bri.
Sure.
Not to be confused with reverse Bri or dry Bri. I don't know what I'm saying. I need sleep
I
desperately.
think we all need to go.
All right. Anyway, we're not gonna be back next week. So you're gonna have another week without an episode. But then,
Yeah, I feel like, just generally speaking, we need to move into a space of we're on a bit of a once every 2 week schedule at the moment. I'm not saying that officially; it's just where we're at the moment. Lily's getting ready for Comic-Con, which, by the way, if you're going to be at Comic-Con, Lily does have a stall, as in MCM Comic-Con in London coming up at the end of this month. She's got
I've
a
been
lot of
cutting
great
stickers for
She's
everyone.
been cutting stickers, and I'm on your website. People can still order on your website to pick up at Comic-Con if they want to. So you should go to artoflilyk.com. You should go there anyway if you want to buy some art, because there's so much great art on there. All this sort of stuff. If you want to follow me on tumblr.com, at the moment I'm posting a lot of Dead Boy Detectives content. So if you want to have some fun and
What a
see all the things
surprise.
that I'm having, I'm really this is the thing. If you're at all a Tumblr girly, or boy, or person, it doesn't matter,
Or a dog.
or a dog, even then, if you're at all in the Tumblr sphere and enjoy the type of shows that Tumblr tends to get very obsessed with, this is absolutely the show for you.
And in 2 weeks' time.
We will be talking about the new Planet of the Apes movie, indeed.
If it
which
sucks,
means
I'm going to murder someone.
I don't,
Wow.
and I get the impression it's not going to suck. So I think in a couple of weeks we'll get a lot more of very excited Lily talking about a really good piece of media, which is a
Andy
great thing.
Serkis said that it was good. So, like, I trust Andy Serkis.
I did see the trailer again before the movie the
Yes.
other day, and I was like, yeah, no, this looks pretty solid. Wes Ball is, and I'm probably going to say this when we do our review, he's a director who understands visual effects.
Oh,
So
100%.
I think
Look
it's
at the
gonna be-
Maze Runner movies.
I mean, yeah, he was I think he was originally in a visual effects like
Yeah.
director
Stories are
or
gorgeous.
artist. I can't remember specifically what he used to do, but like it's nice when you have directors who actively work in visual effects doing visual effects heavy pieces, because they tend to be better.
Yeah.
Mm.
So true. So, be prepared for that one.
Yeah.
We might have an extra guest for that. I don't know yet. Don't get too excited. Just
I think he's still watching.
Ian, are you coming for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes to guest on this thing we're doing? That was a sentence.
Well, it was. They had a period.
It was a
Yeah.
sentence.
It was a full stop.
Yes. My English is so good. Anyway, don't forget to subscribe. Follow us everywhere. We're everywhere, almost everywhere. We're on Apple Podcasts.
We are in fact on Apple Podcasts. I got a
We're
real
on-
fun email earlier, apparently finding out that Google Podcast is shutting down, so that you won't be able to find us there anymore. But we are.
If you ever listen there.
We're on Spotify, and that's the big one. 'Cause most
the big
people
one.
live on Spotify. Sure, that's
That's a sentence. Rate us, like us, subscribe, leave a
Like us.
comment.
comment
Please
if
like
you've
us.
Please like us,
if
please.
if you have watched the show and liked it, please come tell me about it in the comments, because I'd love reading those, or just tweet me at Test Subject Nerd, because I'll read those too.
It's not working. I don't have a big enough nose to hold it.
I think we need to leave.
It's working.
I hope you guys have a great night and get some good sleep too.
What's that?
I have work tomorrow.
Oh gosh.
I think I have to go to the dentist, because throughout this entire talk I was thinking, will I die from this pain? I might.
On that note, bye guys.
All right. Remember, I'm going to put up the stream starting soon thing. It's not
Yes.
starting, so we are leaving. I just don't have an exit.
I have to make a card.
We'll make a card at some point.
So I will say, cut the check. Cut the check.
Watch movies and
Cut
this
the
show
check.
very specifically. Bye, everybody.
Cut the check.